Hi, this is Andy Strickland.
Hey, Cam Jansen here.
You're listening to the best of the Cam and Strick podcast from 2022.
Yoink.
All right, let's get to Bobby Clarke.
Let's go, dude.
Truly an icon, and joined us on this edition of the Cam and Strick podcast. Enjoy Bobby Clarke. The Cam and Strick podcast is brought to you by CarShield. You know, nothing more frustrating, Cam, than when that engine light comes on, and you know right off the bat you're going to have to spend thousands of dollars to repair your vehicle. Call 800-857-2481. Mention the promo code CAM or visit carshield.com and use the code CAM to save 10%. Yeah. That's carshield.com. A deductible may apply. Save yourself money. Sign up and get your coverage now with carshield.com. Now to the interview. Hey, what was your relationship with Ron Hextall? And did you like his antics and kind of just the intensity he brought to the team and to the ice and just to the position overall? Because
we had him on too, by the way.
Yeah, and listen, like Jordan Binnington's kind of like, if there ever was like a goaltender today that was close to Hextall, and he's not even close to being Hextall, not even close at all. But you know, he plays with a little bit of fire. How did that impact the rest of the team? Did you like that fire that he brought to the table?
Loved it. I loved Hextall. He, from the time he got there, I signed him to his first contract. I didn't draft him. Jerry Melnick drafted him, but I signed him to his first contract, and he wasn't very good in camp. And we sent him to Kalamazoo, which was the International League. And Billy Inglis was coaching down there, and Hextall was shooting the pucks around and out of the net. And he said, "What the hell did you send me?" Anyway, someone gets hurt in Hershey. We bring him up to our American League team in Hershey, and he was just incredibly good. And the following year, Lindbergh got killed halfway through the year, and Snyder wanted me to bring up Hextall. But he'd just been there in Hershey. He was part of the Hershey team, and I just said, he's not ready yet. He'll be here next year, and it was the right decision. We got beat by the Rangers, but Hextall was part of the team in Hershey. To take him from Hershey at that time and try and beat the Rangers by himself or be the reason that we could beat the Rangers was really not fair to anybody. And the next year, Hextall come up, and it was from then on the fire and the competitiveness and stuff. It rubs off on everybody when you have those types of players. Practices, man, you don't piss around in practice when you got fiery people like that out there. No. You work, they're invaluable. Kind to get a guy like that. Plus his ability to play. He is a good player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't mess around.
You'll get a good whack in the back of the leg.
Goal stick in their hand. Hey, was that a bad decision to fire him as general manager?
No, it had to be. When Paul Holmgren hired him, I thought it was the best decision that he could have made. And when Hexie come in, we remained friends, but he alienated everybody right away. He shut his door. He locked the doors. He was the boss, and nobody else was part of it. We end up drafting. We get the second pick in the draft. And we end up drafting Nolan Patrick. None of our scouts wanted Nolan Patrick. It wasn't, I don't know where Patrick should have gone after his performances in Brandon. He's a pretty good player, but they wanted Makar. Of course, he went next. No, he's a superstar, and Patrick hasn't played number. But Hextall made that choice himself. And there were other choices that were made in our drafts that we're paying for. We've got 2 or 3 first-round picks that are never going to play. And that's why we're struggling. Hexie made some huge mistakes. And more than that, just alienating everybody. He never included anybody. He made himself bigger than the team. And that is something I would never, ever have thought of with Hexie. Because he was such a team player. Even the alumni were kept out of the locker rooms and stuff. Those kind of things don't work.
Yeah.
No, they backfire. Players, we're way behind right now. We got a long ways to go to catch up. I mean, the salary cap affects everybody. We all know the salary cap, but everybody works with it, so we all have to. We've got to get back to the middle of the pack and then start pecking our way up.
Yeah. No, the alumni. Listen, you can't separate yourself from the alumni. No, you cannot. Hey, he gave the Blues Braden Shen too. So I mean, so
that was just as bad. Nobody knew it. Hexie made that on his own. All our scouts, it was at the draft. Our scouts were so mad at Hexie for doing that, trading Shen. And we also, I'm talking too much, but we also had a chance to get O'Reilly from Buffalo, but we didn't. Obviously, that was the manager's decision, but it was another one that the scouts weren't consulted on. So,
did he ever talk about that? I mean, did you talk to him about that? I mean,
no, I sat at the table 3 seats away from him when he traded Shen and didn't have a clue.
Yeah, I remember interviewing him at the draft. I was there, working for the Blues or whatever at the draft and interviewing him about the Shen trade and you guys got Yori Laterra and I think
he was a star.
I think you got a first-round pick too out of it, maybe.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Or
two. We should have got 2. I don't know what we got. I know we got a first pick. I think we got 2 first picks. But so what?
Okay, we got to get to Tony DeAngelo.
Let's go then.
Come on.
Damn.
Which part of Philly is he from?
South Philly.
That's where the Fresh Prince is from, dude.
South Philly, dude.
From South Philadelphia. But he's from the Italian neighborhood. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll get all into it right now with Tony DeAngelo on the Cam and Strick podcast. Yeah, so even when you get traded like this summer, are teams going like above and beyond with their due diligence on you? Or do you feel like, have you moved past that, or you still feel like you're fighting that reputation?
Well, you get bought out in New York, and the way that goes with that, I'll never dive into the story because I'll never rat about anything. I'm never going to tell on something that I know happened. It is what it is. I got bought out. I took the brunt of what happened in New York. So I'm not going to sit here and finger point at people or whatever. But all I would say is I don't think that that's the way it should have went down. I think that I should have just been traded instead of release. You release a guy that's making $5 million and just came off a big year. People are going, especially with my reputation, people are going to they're going to think something huge happened, right? If you scratch me for a game while you're working on a trade and then trade me 2 days later, they're not going to think anything of it. You have Trouba, you have Fox on the right side. There's things there that could make a trade could actually make sense. But when I got released there, and then all some of these stories came out in the media that were very inaccurate. For example, the one story came out that I bullied Keandre Miller, which would allude to racism, right? And knowing that I got suspended in junior, and it was a completely false story. And I would never ask another player to come out and protect me because I don't need it. I don't want anybody else to put themselves in the spotlight, right? But Keandre Miller, who was a fantastic young player, and we got along real good. I only knew him for a month and a half, 2 months. I was there. We got along great. He was a good kid. He was quiet. I was probably one of the loudest guys in the locker room. I never shut up. But to make for a story like that to come out and then be spread 40,000 times on the internet, I think it was, between the likes and all that kind of stuff, and it's all over Instagram's accounts. People believe it, and then you get this reputation painted of you again. Then they go back, oh, he got suspended in junior. Why wouldn't they believe it, right? So that kind of I didn't really like that, and I didn't like that there was no backup for me from the team. Even if they wanted to get rid of me, so be it. It is what it is. But there was no protection of me as well. Like to put that out there, that wasn't true. And there was no trying to trade me. It was just like, oh, we're going to bury you. That's it.
Yeah.
So I took it. I said, it is what it is. I said, I'll if I had to sit out the year, I actually, the one thing that I always wanted to get out there, I never did, was last year at the deadline, I offered to terminate my own contract to play again. And then, a story comes out right after the deadline when it didn't pan out. Oh, the Rangers offered for me to terminate. And then I declined, which was very inaccurate. I offered it because I wanted to play. But obviously, I spoke to a ton of people this summer, going through. Everyone was doing their due diligence, and you get the same reports back that my teammates and I get along great, and never have problems. Teammates love me, and obviously, I had the incident with the teammate, but it ain't the first 2 teammates ever to have an incident. It's not it's the NHL. It's professional hockey. People are competitive, and I don't even blame him for it either. It just is what it is, and it's not the first guys that's ever happened to you. You think guys never gotten in a fight before, an argument before?
At least 5 times for me, Tony.
Well, normally it doesn't get out. I mean, hey, the
Exactly.
year the Blues won the Cup, I mean, Robert Bortuzzo and Zach
Yeah, there was
Sanford
this
went
video.
toe to toe. You know,
Yeah.
I
like
hated that. By the
like
way.
I know. I mean, but they fought. You know, and you move on. I remember, you know, Tarasenko and David Backes, you know,
Yeah.
throwing punches at each other. I mean, when I saw Pronger practice every day too, man. I mean, it was
It
just
happens.
You know, now. But what happened with you and Alexander Gorgiev? Like what's the story there? Like you guys are coming off the ice and in the runway. I mean, because that was the last game you played, right?
Yeah, that was the last game I played, and you know we were coming off the ice, and I said something to him, which you know you should never say something to a goalie when you're coming off the ice. So I take my part of that. You know, he's running hot
That's
too. We
true.
just lost the game in overtime.
Yeah.
You know, if I was him too, I'd want to turn around and say something.
Yeah.
You know, he turned around and tried to throw a shot, and you know, it kind of got broken up pretty quick, and it was kind of the wrong guy to throw a shot at. But especially when it's off the ice. But you know, it kind of calmed down. But I think there was other stuff going on with the team and I at the time where I kind of wanted to be traded, and they were, you know, the Quinn and I actually like David Quinn personally, but we weren't seeing totally eye to eye as head coach and player. And the next morning, I got nobody called. I just got released, waived. It was it. You know, so all that kind of stuff, I feel like it just got magnified into a way. Like, for example, Robert Bortuzzo, the people talk about it now. They think it was part of the reason the Blues started getting hot. Oh, they took out the frustration, and they start playing great. They wound up winning the Cup that year. You know, for a time there, people were saying it was the worst thing ever. Teammates are fighting in practice. Like, it shouldn't happen. You don't want it to happen.
Yeah, but that was
if I see
embarrassing,
teammates-
though. I mean, it's
Yeah,
still
but-
after a game, you can't cheer up the goalie, and you
No,
do have,
100%.
and you do got problems. So like that all adds up. So you're already on a magnifying glass, and after
Yep.
a game, like these two guys were battling in practice. Now I
Yeah,
got
no,
pissed.
But it was more than
That was-
that.
I know, but it's just, you know, the goalie thing. Like it just was just added on, man. That's a tough one.
Yeah, no. Listen. I'm the first guy to take responsibility for things. Do I think that stuff like that should be made public? Absolutely not. I think that there's a little bit of a code that should be followed by. And I got released. I ain't sitting here saying that they made the wrong move. Would I prefer to get traded? Absolutely. But I got released. I'm not going to blame anybody. It is what it is. They moved on. Nobody picked me up.
Mm-hmm.
But I said to all the teams that called me, I said, I am a fiery guy. You know, have I made mistakes? Absolutely. I said, but am I ready to go and ready to play for whoever picks me up? Absolutely. And that's what I did. I went to Carolina and played for a great coach and played well, like the way I knew I could play and the way I played the year before when I played. So to me, I've made mistakes in my career, but I don't like the reputation of racism or anything. That bugs me because that's very inaccurate. And I don't like reputation of not getting along with teammates either because that is also very, very, very inaccurate. So that kind of stuff pisses me off, and it's something I like to address when I can. I don't go out of my way to do it, but no, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh no, I got screwed everywhere I went. It was all their fault, not
I
mine."
get you.
That ain't the truth. But what the truth is I compete, and when I play, and I give people my word. And I told Carolina because they were nervous. Everybody's nervous, right? Oh, we're taking a risk here. I said, "You got my word." I said, "I come in and I play as hard as I can for you, and I keep my mouth shut and just play." And that's what I did. And I try to keep, if I give somebody my word, that's what I do. I keep it. So I did that.
Well, I've heard stories about guys getting in the face of a goaltender and stuff like that after games. And I remember like when Brent Johnson played here back in the day, like that would
I
go
didn't
on.
mean to chirp you that much, Tony.
But let me say this though, because we've had David Quinn on and we've had Jeff Gorton on, man, and they speak highly of you.
Yeah,
I will
they
say
do.
that Jeff Gorton said that he went and were calling teams on your behalf to speak highly of you. I don't know if you knew that or if he ever told you that and whatever, but like, what was your, interaction with him and maybe John Davidson or David, like after you left? Have you ever talked to them again or no?
Yeah, John Davidson texted me to congratulate me on headed to the Flyers. What's funny is the way it ended there. I didn't like, how I wasn't just traded and it became public knowledge and like, I turned an enemy number one of New York, obviously, as you guys can see in the playoffs there.
Yeah.
But personally, as guys, I like them guys. Quinny as a guy, I liked. As sometimes as a coach, we didn't totally get along all the time or see eye to eye, but as a guy, he's a good guy. I think anybody on our team would say that he was a good guy. I liked him. He's a funny guy. You have some fun with it. Gortz, I really liked, and I was close with Gortz's son. He was at the rink a lot of the times, younger kid. And JD they were all good people. I never have anything bad to say about any of them. The only thing, and I told them to their face, and I told anybody that I spoke to publicly, I said, I really believe that I should have been traded,
I get you.
and not released and bought out after, and whatever the case may have been. I felt like they talk super highly of me when they speak to you guys too, right? And I would talk highly of them. I think they're all good hockey guys, good people. But that's just one thing that we'll never agree on, that I wasn't able to get moved. And you're not able to get moved because what people know after. So sure, what are they gonna say? Oh, eat half his salary. All this shit came out about him. Eat half his salary, then maybe we'll take him. Obviously, they weren't going to do that. No. But if nobody knows what happens, and they just say, "Hey, we're moving on. We got a piece to move here. We got too many righties," I highly think that I would have gotten traded without issue.
So what did you do the rest of this after they released you? Like, what did you do the rest of that season? Were you watching hockey? Were you paying attention? Like, were you communicating with like friends in the league? Like what were you doing to pass the time and stay ready?
Yeah, I was staying ready. I was at the rink every morning, same as I'm doing like in an off season. I was at the rink. I'd work out. I would skate. I would do a little bag skate at the end in case I got a call quicker than I thought. And a lot of calls came in. A ton of calls. So I think there was maybe 17 different teams that at one point called to see what would be the thing. And that's when I said, you know what? I'll terminate this deal if we could find the right fit. And when I was going to go terminate the deal, though, it was going to have to be like a 2-year deal elsewhere. When you would get put on waivers or whatever, you were going to have to sign a 2-year deal. And then it just didn't wind up not working out. A 2-year deal, I didn't know if it made sense. What if you go somewhere and it wasn't the right fit? You're stuck there for another year. And, first I was going to have to get ready again, too. And now I'm sitting out 3 months. Now you got to get ready again and try to get ready in for a playoff series. So it just wound up not working out. It was just a little too late there. So after the deadline passed, I watched hockey the whole year. I watched all the playoffs and stuff. And after the deadline passed, I kind of took some time off and just reset and, tried to get ready for the offseason. And when the offseason came around, it was a lot of them same teams interested again. And to be honest with you, a lot of the times ownerships of some teams were putting the no on it.
Yeah.
Well, you like
you would get there, you would get to the top. All right, we have a deal. Then the ownership, we're going to pass on this.
Right.
We don't want the publicity or whatever, which I understand. It's a business they're running. They're not just, it's not the Tony D'Angelo league. These people are running the
hockey. The hockey people want you on the team. It's the owner who's like, how are the fans going to react? How's the community going to react?
Hey, what'd you do the whole time? Were you lonely though? I mean, like, did you hang with the guys? Like,
it was pretty boring sometimes, but my buddies, some of my best buddies, I was living in Hoboken when I got released. Because there was no traffic on the bridge and the city was so crazy that I just lived over there. And so my best friend actually lived 3 blocks from me. So we were kind of hanging out. I stayed in Hoboken for a good while and then went back to Philly as time just kept ticking on there. But no, I mean, I passed the tie. It was tough. It was, because you were getting, what the thing was about it. I was getting a phone call every day. That this team's interested. They had to send it up to their, the ownership, and the ownership would say no, and like another letdown. And you think you're getting close to something, and you just weren't able to get it done. And at some point, I think I started. I'm not dumb. I started to realize what was coming. I knew I was getting bought out after the year. But I said, I'm either going to terminate this deal and try to find something right now, or we're waiting to, wait until the off season. And I don't know how many teams we've had now tell my agents that they regret not taking me in last year and stuff. And hey, I totally understand all of it. I'm never going to, I don't like the way certain things worked out, but I'm also not just expecting 32 offers, when I became a free agent last summer. I get it. I get how it works and fans, what they want and stuff. So I'm happy the way it all worked out. I'm happy that I got to go to Carolina for a year and play with Rod and some great people there, great guys. So it worked out.
Oscar Sundquist, baby.
Yeah.
Live. And in full effect right here on the Cam and Strick podcast.
Let me ask you about Tom Wilson, that fucking hit. And we like Willie, and he fucked that up. But, like, I feel like he got rocked, and we're like, God, we were so pissed about it. But, like, you rejuvenated yourself. Like, I don't know what the fuck it was, but you got out of that, and you were just going and going. How bad was that? Did you see, like, would you have to put the fucking shades down and spin and all that shit?
Yeah, I mean that was probably the worst I've had. I mean the hit is like it happens quick, in hockey and stuff. I'll see him in the last second, and then it's just black kind of. Yeah. I'll wake up after my concussion test in the locker room with no gear on, with a doctor talking to me. Oh, God. That's when I wake up and like realize, or like asking them like what happened and stuff like that.
Did you ask him for a Stella?
I asked them. I think I asked them 6 times in a row who hit me. Ugh. And I gave him the same answer every 6 times, apparently, the Ray told me afterwards. But, like, that was the worst I felt, not because of the headache or anything. It was more just I could not stay awake. You know, like I wake up, I have my breakfast, and I have to sleep. And then it's like, wake up, have some lunch, I have to sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Your brain shut down, like your body shut down.
It was that for over a week. I just couldn't stay awake at all for any part of the day.
I guess that's better than, because some people will stay awake.
Yeah.
And be miserable and spin and
Yeah.
can't have light, but you
couldn't-
slept. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
In a
But
way.
it was just, it just got scary at that moment, you know?
Like, am I going to ever wake up?
Yeah, like, so it was like that, and then it started to feel better, and like I was able to go to the rink for a little bit, and then I had to go home and sleep. But other than that, it was kind
Yeah,
of
but
like,
then you fucking found it, homie.
yeah,
You fucking did.
yeah, exactly. No, so I don't know. He probably knocked something good into me,
Sometimes I know. It's weird how that works.
or I was
man.
too smart. I just need to get dumber.
You didn't get down. That's my problem. I'm too fucking
Hey,
smart.
did he ever call you, Tom Wilson? We had him on, dude. I actually
He's a good guy.
keep in touch with him. He's actually a really good
He's a
dude.
real-
Yeah, no, I've heard that too, and I talked to him. He talked to me after the game, after like the next game I played against them. Like he
Oh, he did?
He apologized and stuff like that.
You gotta do it.
Yeah, but I also have a funny one with. I think it was my first game back. It was against Minnesota, and I'm lining up for the first face-off, and it's Foligno next to me, Marcus Foligno, and he goes, "Such a bullshit hit. I'm gonna take him for you. Don't worry, buddy."
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
But he probably
Marcus.
elbowed you that night, too.
So the next I was like, okay, I have to see, like, is he doing it? The next game against Washington, he fought him right away.
Yeah. I like
Really?
Big Marcus, man.
Yeah.
I like that motherfucker.
Well, except when he tried to, like, who was he going to hit over the top of it?
Yeah,
Oh, Mikola.
Yeah.
Take a baseball
Whatever.
swing at him.
We all go crazy.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
we all
pretty
go
cool,
crazy
man.
in the playoffs.
But Sonny,
sometimes.
you hurt motherfuckers too, though. You've hurt some cats too.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think I know which one you're referring
Yeah,
to.
You fucking
That-
2000. You guys were killing guys, man.
It was a fun time, and I mean, I think it started with Steiner too. I think both me and Barbs could kind of sense, like, when he got together with us, it was like he didn't want that. He didn't want to be on the fourth line. You know, obviously he's been a top 6 guy his whole career, and now he's on the fourth line with these two plumbers, Sonny and Barbs. So he was pissed about that for a bit, but then like he kind of, I think it just took him like a game, and like he realized, like, fuck, it's really fun
go.
playing with these guys.
Yeah.
You know. So that then it kind of like took us in. And he's like we're gonna be like, he always like, we're gonna be the difference. We're gonna setting the tone, and like we're gonna lead this team like in the way we play, kind of stuff.
So he would do that. He kind of all of a sudden became the leader because he didn't like anybody to refer to your line as the fourth line. Like, he was like, we're not the fourth line.
yeah.
And you weren't.
No, but
And yeah, exactly.
I mean,
You weren't.
we started most of the games and stuff like that, but like we didn't really have a fourth line. It was like we were just rolling, and I mean, he had us in group texts and like texting us and like motivational speech, kind of like for games. Like he was awesome, and I mean, like it was so fun playing with both. And I mean, we had the smart guy in Steiner, then we had me and Barbs being wrecking balls, kind of. you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And now he's like a 20 goal scorer, 25 goal scorer.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
26
So now
or
it's too
whatever.
good for that. But
Yeah.
he-
Hold on. So
You see Barbie fucking kill a fucking.
oh yeah, so
Gerard.
I was
Sammy
like,
Gerard,
yeah,
Ooh.
that's unfortunate, dude, but like
was a
that's kind of like the old Barbs, you know.
Yeah,
Like, it's-
yeah.
He's sticking guys.
What do you like more, the goal scoring Barbs or the hitting Barbs?
I love Barbs either way. He's a really funny guy, but I mean, I love playing with him. So I would say when the wrecking ball Barbs,
boy. Let's go.
because I got to play with him during that time, and it was so much fun.
Okay, so Steiner's sending you like he's sending you motivational like
I mean,
text messages.
especially before like Game 7, it's like we're gonna be the difference, kind of, and like stuff like that. Like we're gonna set the tone, and like we're gonna win because of like we're gonna lead this team, like how to play this Game 7, kind of. And I mean I was suspended for Game 3, and Bars was suspended for Game 6, so it's like we were like, when we weren't together, it kind of felt like a little bit lost. Like, 'cause, you know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could have played those games blindfolded with those two, you know?
Really?
That's how it felt.
Explain that.
I mean, like, it didn't matter where I got the puck or in whatever situation it was. I always knew where one of those guys going to be.
Okay.
and I know if I put the puck here, one of them going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so much fun to play like that too, and like it felt like you were never in trouble wherever you got the puck. So, I've talked to Steiner about that too. He was kind of the same way, you know. He felt the same way, and it's like it was always like someone's always gonna be where we put this puck. So that was like I never really had that before, and it was so much fun to do. And on top of that, like we started most of the game, so like we were supposed to take care of Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron, which was really fun. And like Boston tried to have them away from us. So like every time we started in Boston, we always got their fourth line because they didn't want the Bergeron line against us.
Good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a fucking good feeling.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
hiding your fucking big. Are you scared of us?
Yeah. So I mean, like,
Did Krug tell you how hard you were to play against? Like, did he ever say anything about that, or did he just never ever talk about it? And how respectful were you guys not to talk about it with him?
we've been respectful, and I mean sometimes it's been coming up when we had a team party or something like that, like a guys like a hotel room drinking night and stuff like that. But I mean, then it's just some memories of what happened, but other than that, you're trying to stay away from it too, and trying to be respectful. And I know Kruger too. I love him. He usually pepped me up during the games and telling me to, like, right before I came back from my ACL surgery and stuff like that. He was always like, go out there and be the asshole I know you can be. Kind of like stuff like that.
I like that.
Smile.
Everyone's motivating. You got the best smile in the league, by the way. You know that.
You do.
You know that. And nobody compares to that. All right, listen, Jason Arnott, get ready for the interview of the century. I mean, you don't know what you're about. It was pretty damn good.
He was really good.
You don't know what you're about to
Interview
get
of the
into.
century.
It was pretty damn good, though. Check it
Storm
out.
of the century.
Well, yeah, he was damn good. Let's listen to Jason Arnott, okay? Here on the Cam and Strick podcast, presented by Hair Club.
And then you go to Edmonton, like you're a young kid. Like, explain that situation. Like, were you mobbed there? Like, who were your older guys? Did they take care of you? Like, explain that. You're in a bubble up there.
Big time draft pick.
Big time
a lot
draft
of
pick.
hype surrounding him,
Shit
man,
ton
when he
of
came
hype.
to Edmonton.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Not just your looks.
I mean, I remember the media was just, it was insane. When I first got there, every practice, there was media everywhere, and I'm like, what the hell? I mean, and, coming from Oshawa, you got one writer, and I mean, there's hardly anybody there. And then you go to a Canadian team, and it's just every single day. But I went there thinking I'm probably going to come back to junior and play junior another year. I never went there thinking that I was going to make it. Until I got on the ice and started playing with the other guys, it kind of clicked in my head that I think I could play. I think I can make it. I think I can stay here and play. But I never went there with the cocky attitude that, oh, I'm first round pick and I'm here no matter what, which a lot of guys do.
Yeah.
They get there and they think it's they've made it because they got drafted in the first round. But it's, I didn't go over there with that attitude, and some guys took me under their wing right away. Like Corse took me under his wing right away.
He's
Luke
the best.
Richardson
Cool.
did.
Yeah.
So I went out a lot with Corse and hung out with him a lot, and he was my line mate. So, that just made me tougher as a player too, because anybody would fuck with me. I knew Corse was right there, and we had a really tough team, back then.
Who's on that team? Tough guy. Was Brownie on that team at the time?
No, we had Louis DeBrusque,
Oh yeah.
Dave Manson,
Oh.
Marchman,
Oh.
Scotty Thornton,
Yep. Big Scotty Thornton.
Kelly Buckberger.
Yeah.
You go toe to toe.
Scott
I mean, you go
Pearson.
down-
Was Pearson?
Scott Pearson,
Yeah.
Scotty Pearson. I mean, you go down the list, it's like anybody. But I didn't expect them to stick up for me. I had to fight and stick up for myself because I wanted to earn their respect too. I don't want to be a guy that would hide behind all those guys.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, every team had a lot of those guys. So it was you grew up quick. That's for
Oh my
damn
God.
sure.
Marchment. Oh my God, dude, those guys would rock you.
Yeah.
But you like that type though. You talk about Craig McTavish and not like talking to you. Like you like that as a veteran. And did you take that too? Like when
No.
you were, yeah, I was
No,
gonna
I
say
was
because I
never
don't
like
like that
that.
either. Yeah.
No, I didn't. Now looking back on it, it made me it's a fine line because at the end of my career, you'd have some young guys come in and you're like, shut up and go out there and play. They're telling the coach to F off.
Mm.
And you're like, dude, guys, like, are you fucking serious? But then they're making $5-6 million a year and they think that they're the best thing ever. Where when I started, if I did that, you know, they would probably beat the shit out of you and you would just lose that respect factor in the dressing room. And I did not want to do that. But the young guys coming in when I was captain and stuff, I would make them feel at home, but I'd also would make them accountable for everything too. You can't just let them off the hook because then it accumulates and it's a disaster. We had a big problem with Radulov in Nashville. He was just part of it is his brain. I think he's out there. He's a ADD, like always hyper. But we'd be surrounded by trots doing a play on the board at practice. And all you hear is like ting, ting. Oh. And I look down at the other end and he's shooting pucks.
Oh my God.
In the net. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I pulled him aside one day. I go, you do that again and I'm going to fucking tear your head off. Don't ever disrespect a team like that. Get your ass over here. I don't care what you're doing. He's like, well, I didn't know what we were. I'm like, you damn well knew what we were doing. We're all standing by the board. So then he kind of got an attitude. Then everybody kind of was giving it to him a bit, and he got an attitude of, well, the guys don't like me, blah blah blah. And I had meetings with Trotzy about it, and I'm like, Trotzy, we like when he's on the ice, he's great, but he's showing no respect to anybody. And if he doesn't earn respect, how you're going to shut him out. You got to make him feel like that because then he's going to just keep doing it.
Such a distraction, man. It sounds petty, but it's a fucking distraction.
It really is.
Were you on the team when he had that hotel issue, whatever? When he before he went back to, or were you on the team when all of a sudden he went out, hotel situation, and then ended up going back to Russia, or what?
No, I was gone that year. I went back to New Jersey, and he got caught coming in during the playoffs or something.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing about it. I'm like, I'm not surprised at all. And then that was final straw. And then he's like, screw this. I'm going back to Russia. Yeah. And I'm like, good. Good. You go back to Russia and stay there. And then when he came back, I was like, oh my God, how are they letting him back into this league? But I think he grew a little bit and kind of missed it, and that's probably why he came back.
What about Gomer, Scotty?
He was the best.
He was a little cocky because he was rookie of the year. Mm-hmm. He wins a fucking cup.
Wins the cup, yeah.
He does. He kind of a couple of accolades, and I heard so many stories when I was with Devils and all that shit. But I know Patty Burns had to fucking tell him to shut the fuck up a couple times. Bash his phone. Like, how was he growing up? Like as a young kid?
Well, see, I was gone. I left a few years after that. So that, he won those and he was fine, but we had, and he had that little bit of cocky arrogance about him, but he would always laugh it off and make you laugh at the same time. He may have gotten worse later on, but I wasn't around for that. But he was just, his first year when we won, he had a blast, obviously, because he had, like you said, he got all these accolades and everything like that. But that year, it didn't really change him. He was still a lot of fun. We hung out a lot and had a blast. But I could see he'd be one guy that it could go to his head a little bit.
Okay, listen, we're kind of bouncing around all over. We'll get back to Jersey, but I got to ask you about Radulov, though. Yep. Like, when you score the playoff goal and he jumps into your arms and, like, forces you to hit your head on the boards and you get a concussion.
Yeah, knocked me out.
Oh my God. You came back and played the next game, I think, but then, like, the next game, you started experiencing symptoms. Like walk us through that. And what'd you say to him after that? Like, I couldn't believe what happened. Never seen that before.
I didn't speak to him again after that. I didn't even look at him. I mean, I know it wasn't his fault. That's the way he is. But it's like he basically jumped into me and knocked shoulder to chin. And I remember falling down and blacking out for a second. And then I was kind of out of it, rolling around. And then I'm like, I don't even know what happened. Like, I don't remember scoring. And I got up and I'm like, what's going on? And I went over the bench and now everything's spinning. And then I finished that game, but I couldn't play the next game because I couldn't even drive my car. Like, everything was like dizzy and spinning. And I'm like, and we just tied the series up 2-2 against Detroit. And we were playing really well. And then I remember just sitting in the room and then we went back to Detroit and I was sitting in the dressing room and they wouldn't even let me go on the ice or nothing. I'm like, well, let me try and go for morning skate. And they're like, you're not playing. You're complaining about headaches and symptoms and everything. You're not playing. And then I just remember just sitting there going, and then we ended up losing to them. And, I was just like, what? But I get asked about that all the time.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, the building was going crazy because Ryan Suter scored like 9 seconds before that, right?
Yeah.
So it was, and you guys, Dominic Hasek's in goal, you score, and then all of a sudden, and you guys were doing pretty well in terms of from an offensive standpoint in that series. Then you went out, and then it was like series over for Nashville. But what about like guys like Suter and Weber? Like when I think you came there maybe their second year in the league when you got to Nashville. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but like, did you know these?
It was their first years, I believe, when I first got there. Yeah,
you knew right away both these guys were going to be like did one guy? Did you gravitate to one guy over the other? Like, they were both obviously like pillars of the franchise. Everyone knew they were going to be big pieces moving forward.
Yeah, I knew both of them were going to be huge, great players. The attitude of Suits was night and day to Webb's.
Really?
He thought, because I rode with him a lot to the rink because we lived close to each other, and all he would do is complain about how come he's not on the power play? How come he doesn't play enough? I can't believe this guy's making this much money.
Really?
I'm like, dude, it's your first year in the league. I go, you're gonna make so much money if you keep going the way you're going and how good you are. You don't have to worry about that. Why are you worried about that right now? And it's your first year. I'm like, just go out and play and stop complaining about everything. So that was his mentality. But Webb's was, anytime that I would say something, he was like, yep, oh yeah, yeah. Any help you can give me, I'll take it. Or like, he was night and day. He wanted to learn and super respectful and played hard. And, so two different dynamics of mentality of players. But I knew right away that both of them were going to be, studs in the NHL and big time players.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Listen, I had heard that about Ryan Suter really throughout his career, even in Minnesota. And it surprises me because I got to know
hated him there.
Oh yeah. I got to know his dad, because he coached a AAA team out of Madison.
Yeah.
He drove the Zamboni in the rink. He just wore jeans, total blue collar guy. And so it would surprise me to hear that Ryan was like that when you consider his dad was such a hardworking hockey guy.
Sometimes that happens, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he just got bought out.
It is. Yeah, I know.
And gets a 4-year deal in Dallas at 36.
Yeah. I know. Well, he made his money.
Crazy. Oh yeah, he did make his money, but yeah, I heard he was a huge distraction in that dressing room. And knowing Billy Guerin, he's not putting up with that, and he's cleaning house to bring back, and now look at them. They're he's built a phenomenal team without all that money and distraction.
Hey, Brett Hall, we talk about the Brett Hall strain. It's on now on the Cam and Strick podcast. Enjoy. I thought like you were in the running, like you were going to go to ESPN and you were going to maybe join that whole broadcast thing. I don't know if you ever talked to TNT and all that too. Like, well, whatever happened with that?
I never got a call at all from them. So,
really?
But then I did. They did call me, but not about that. Remember the show Details with Kobe?
Oh yeah.
Well, I did it. I did 4 episodes of that for ESPN on hockey. Did Ovechkin and McDavid. I did. Who else? I can't remember now. But 4 episodes, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. And so I haven't seen one yet, but my buddy Norm McIver, who I played with at Duluth, who's now the assistant GM back in Chicago, said he saw it and it was he really enjoyed it. So that was nice to hear.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're very entertaining. But like, look what you're doing now. Like, you got the best gig going. You entertain people on the golf course. Like, would you want to even do that?
No.
You have to pay attention and shit to everything.
No. Well, I don't understand what they're doing anyway. You've got the greatest player in the history of the game, and you lure him onto TV, and then you stick him over on the end and let Biz Nasty run the show. I mean, I was flabbergasted when I saw it. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me.
So what do you mean by that? Because like, it's
well,
like
he should be front and center.
Yeah.
He should be front and center, right in the middle of the desk, and everyone should be bouncing things off of him.
So, do you think he's okay with that, or he just is like his personality? Like he wouldn't say anything if he was bothered by it anyway.
He wouldn't say anything. He's too nice.
Yeah.
And but I talked to him, and he said he enjoyed it. So that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really the it's not the Gretzky show on TNT.
No, and it should be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I hear you on that.
I mean, everything now's got to be so PC. It's.
Well, that's the only show that's really.
I have
though.
no time. I have no time for that nonsense. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are, or what race you are. If you're good at it, hire them, and if they're not, don't hire them.
Mm-hmm.
No shit.
Like it's not just oh, that's like a female, so we got to have her on there. It's like, okay.
George Peros, man, we had him on. Yeah. How stressed out is that guy? I mean, he's got a lot on his plate, Holy.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's the most laid back guy, that I've met, and he is so smart and so good at what he does. And it's just like, we were talking the other day, and it was first day of exhibition, right? And I think it was the Blues in Phoenix, not in Phoenix, against Phoenix in Topeka.
In Tulsa.
It was in Tulsa.
Yeah.
And I see George the next morning, and he's like, really? He goes, it's the first day of games in training camp, and some idiot does something at the end of the Phoenix Blues game, and there's no footage. I have nothing. So he's like, so I've had to call around and talk to the refs and phone Doug Armstrong and phone whoever the GM of Phoenix is. And it's like, and Army told him, he said, yeah, George, there's going to be no film. There was one camera, and it was some far end corner. So he's just like, oh.
There's no video.
Yeah, but he's surrounded himself with really smart guys, tough guys. And then he's got Ray Whitney, who, he was a great skilled player, but he's smart, and he looks at the game as the game. He doesn't look at it as, well, I'm a skilled guy, and that guy hit that guy too hard, so he should be suspended. He's like, well, he says stuff like, why are we looking at the hit? Why not suspend the idiot who gave the guy the sucker pass to set him up to get hit? That's the guy who should get suspended. So, yeah, they're smart. They're a group. They have a tough job. That no matter what they do, someone's not going to be happy.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because it's like it's the most thankless job in hockey, and to be honest with you, because listen, Shanahan did it and took a ton of heat. Pronger was involved with it for a while. Stefan Quintal, all these guys, man, Rob Blake, they all took so much heat. Like, I'm surprised these guys even want to do it.
Yeah, well, I've told George, and he's obviously, he'll listen to me over a couple of cold ones, and I'll be like, that guy's about 10th infraction, and he's been in the league 3 years. I go, why don't you throw the MFing book at one of these guys and see how much that curbs stupidity out there?
Yeah.
Like, it's still crazy to me how there's idiots who still hit people from behind or elbow people in the head. Like, are you stupid? God, like Kadri, I don't know. He may have cost the Leafs the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
The victim.
And he certainly screwed the Avalanche over the year before they won it last year
with the hit on Falk.
Like, he keeps getting suspended for stupid fucking plays. Sorry about my language.
You're good.
I mean, he's an idiot.
Yeah. Okay. You're right, but don't you look at it, Holy, and be like, it's pretty. I mean, compare it to when you played. I mean, were there more idiots when you played versus now? I mean, the game's changed so much.
Well, I think the rules. It was hard to hit a guy with the red line in, because you all came up the ice together. You weren't skating backwards through the neutral zone, and then all of a sudden you get the puck and turn around, and there's a 230-pound defenseman ready to kill you. You were facing up ice, and you had your head up, and you were looking for guys like Brian Marchment and big hitters like that, Kasparaitis, right? But, like, if I was skating backwards, like, whose fault is that? They need to put the red line back in.
What other rule do you think they need to implement?
The
or take out?
goalies need to be able to handle the puck.
Mm-hmm. You don't like the trapezoid?
No, it's the worst. It's the worst.
People forget you were co-GM. I mean, we don't have too many co-GMs on the show with the Dallas Stars. Did you like that? Like, do you wish you would have stuck with it and tried to maintain a career in management? Like, what?
Yeah, I would have liked that. I think at that time, Tom Hicks got some bad advice, and because we were 2 wins away from going to the Stanley Cup, and then we were in first place when I got the call to go down to his office, and he says, "Oh, we're going to make a change, and you're going to move up to whatever I was, and we're going to bring in Joe Nieuwendyk." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's fair. I mean, it's your team. I got, And then all of a sudden, like, they didn't make the playoffs for like 5 years, I think, or something like that. And I was like, we were taking things in the right direction. So,
okay, but how did that work with you and Les Jackson? Like, who did what, and did you guys get along?
Well, we both. Not Les is a very good hockey guy, obviously, but Les had been an assistant GM and I think a GM in the minors before. So I was like, Les, you do the technical stuff, the CBA better than me or at all, and I'll watch the team and the players and around the league and see what we can do at the deadline and stuff like that. So the worst was when I signed Sean Avery.
Oh yeah,
and there was zero. Everyone was on board. It's just like it's all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, Brett held a gun to everyone's head and said, "We got to sign this guy or else." I'm like, really? We all agreed on it. Like I didn't go, here, have this amount of money. It went through the ownership, right? And so all of a sudden it doesn't work out, which is also because of the players. No one gave him a chance. And he was no help to himself either. All of a sudden he was this guy who had been at Vogue, and he showed up to the first road trip, first exhibition game on the road, and he had technically a suit on, but the suit was shorts. They weren't long pants. And I'm like, oh my God, not already. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I like, Sean, can you just kind of try to not be Mr. Vogue? I'm like,
more masculine.
And then so the whole locker room was like, nobody gave him a chance. Yeah. So they were doomed from day one. So
okay, so did you know it was did you regret it like immediately, like being like
no,
we shouldn't have done it?
I didn't regret one thing. And then when he did what he did in Calgary, before you could even get on the phone and talk to the owner, it's like he is gone. He is no longer on. And I'm like, hold on here. I mean, they were just looking for something. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And instead of going and sitting down as a team and going, okay, there's somebody else in this league that will take him. But when you come right out and go, he's done, he's finished, well, now you're screwed.
Yeah, exactly.
So now he's off the team. Now you got nothing for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, sit down with him and just go, you're an idiot. Look at all the money you're leaving on the table. Just go out and play hockey. But they jumped to the gun, and it was like, you've got to be kidding.
Mm.
Well,
it's typical, right?
Yeah.
There's just no thought at all. Fire, ready, aim.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's backwards.
When we had him on though, he said one of his biggest regrets was kind of fucking you over because he loved you.
And I appreciate that, but he did it to himself too.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to do anything to me. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but he screwed himself over now. Like
he lived with you, right, in Detroit?
He lived with me his rookie year in Detroit. He lived with my wife.
Detroit. I was with the Blues. The Blues were playing Detroit in the playoffs. And the Black Aces were like on the ice after the morning skate, and I'm like, "Who is that guy?" Like he's just like dangling around through everybody.
Yeah, he had skill too.
And he was a young. I mean, no one even knew who he was at that point in time,
Right.
But yeah, and you could see that, I mean, you said last time he came on with us, he could have been Brad Marchand, really, if he would.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. So you never
look how long it took for Brad Marchand to become Brad Marchand.
Oh yeah. And we've had
he was an idiot forever until all of a sudden now he's like, oh. And I think that's Cam Neely sat him down.
Neely, Claude Julien, there were a couple other people too who were there at the time.
So,
and
he listened.
Yeah.
But he still does stupid stuff out there.
I know, they told us. You hear that tornado? There's that tornado siren in the background. Do you hear that, Holly? You miss St. Louis, man? Like, that's what they had. They like the tornado sirens, That's what goes off here on
but is it for crime now and not weather?
I don't know. It's not for crime or weather now.
Every month, the first Monday of every month, they do the siren.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a test.
It's a test.
Hell yeah, you want this.
I think they do that everywhere.
Hey,
Nashville got rocked last time we were down there. Remember that? That was like 3 years ago.
Didn't they have a tornado or something?
Right when we left, that tornado came through Nashville. Fucked it up. Were you down there?
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Killed people. Shit.
Sure was.
And then there was a bomb scare down there.
Bomb scare?
No, he did blow it.
The guy did it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Remind me.
Some fucking dude.
It was basically suicide.
Yeah.
Right? And he built this bomb inside his van, and at like 5 a.m, so he obviously didn't want to hurt anyone, because at 5 a.m. he parked it in front of some building, maybe the AT&T, I'm not sure what building it was. And he just detonated it with himself in there, and it caused tons of damage, but no one was hurt because he did it when no one would be there.
Okay, let's get to Mark Messier. Enjoy this on the Cam and Strick podcast.
Let me get back to '94 again. That whole run was so incredible. One of the best Stanley Cup runs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, literally ever. It was great for hockey.
Yeah.
But when you called that game, hey, explain that. By the way, look, you're the big boy. You I guess the reporter comes up to you and you're like, yeah, we're going to win. You guarantee it. You kind of didn't know what happened. And all of a sudden you see the paper the next day. And it's like, we will. Were you like, oh, son of a bitch. And you're like, no, what? I'm going to pull the bootstraps up, baby. I'm the leader of this team. Explain how that all went down, man.
Well, that is exactly what happened when I saw the paper the next day.
You're like, what did I
You're
say?
like, oh boy, I gotta do one thing now.
And Brian Leach in his deadpan way goes, I guess we're going to win tonight, right? But for me, it was all about confidence. We had played with so much confidence all year. I wanted the players to know that I believe we could win the game. We had beaten New Jersey 6 times during the regular season. And we had to figure out a way to play better. But the way to figure out a way to play better is you got to believe you can play better. You got to believe you can win. Yep. And without the belief, the roof starts to cave in pretty quickly. So, I was just trying to figure out a way to, let the players know personally that I really believe we could go in there and win the game, because we did. We had before. And we had to go figure out a way to play better, harder, and execute better against a great New Jersey Devil team. So that's where the inspiration was for. Of course, I kind of over-calculated who would be listening to that message. It was only really meant for
You're in New York.
Yeah. But when it splashed on the paper is the next game. But to be honest with you, I didn't even care at that point. I know how close we were. I didn't care what New Jersey Devils thought about it. If they needed to use that as inspiration, that to me was a positive for us. So at that point, I didn't care. I was willing to do anything to get that win and move on.
Yeah, but Mark, that's what stuff like what legends are made of, right? I mean, you look back on it, it's like the greatest statement you ever made, because now everybody does it. Everybody tries to guarantee,
and
that
they don't. Yeah.
It wasn't something everybody was doing at the time. So I mean, you have to look back at it, and like it's probably one of the best things you've ever said, considering how it all worked out for you.
Well, I don't really consider it in those terms. I think as a captain, you're always monitoring your team. Every morning you walk in there, you're monitoring the energy, the confidence of every player. You're aware of who is having a problem with a coach. You're aware of who's having a problem at home. You're aware of who's struggling, who's been in a slump. So you got all this energy that you're trying to focus into a one direct channel to winning. And so I didn't really look at it in those terms. I was, as a captain, for me personally, it was really as simple as just trying to figure out a way to get the guys focused to believe we could go in and win the game. And every game that I played, I was trying to figure out a way to win, whether, this happened to be, extraordinary circumstances, obviously, because of the 54-year drought and, being down after a great year, and here we go again, and not the same old Ranger team, and But for me, it was simple as that. It's just trying to figure out a way to win a game.
Hey, listen, like when Wayne Gretzky's a rock star, like when you're in Edmonton, you played for a year with him in New York as well. Like, how did he handle it? Like all the attention and just deal with it, because it seemed like it never really got to him. Like he's one of those superstars that was able to deal with it. Like, did you learn anything from him from that regard?
I did learn incredible amount from Wayne in that regard. First of all, his work ethic. Second of all, his the way he handled the press, the way he respected the press, the way he respected people that came up to him in so many ways. I mean, it was just unbelievable, to be honest with you.
Did other players ever get jealous of like his celebrity, and how did he maintain their, those relationships within the locker room where he didn't make everybody else feel like they were smaller than him?
Was he too big?
And like, what did you learn from him that you were able to take with you as your, brand just continued to grow and explode?
I don't think that I know of, and I think I can speak for almost anybody that I played with, that we played with Wayne together, that anybody ever once felt any animosity or jealousy toward him. And what I did learn very early on is that you can't treat every player the same. And anybody that tries to do that on the team is because not every one player are the same as the guy sitting next to you, and they need to be treated different. They need different things in order for them to be successful. And of course, Wayne and the demands on him, if we would have treated him, or if the management or coaching would have treated him like some of the other guys, it wouldn't have worked for Wayne. from the way that he got onto the bus, the way he got out of the hotel, it was incredible. He was a rock star. Everybody wanted a piece of him. And so, for Wayne himself, he treated everybody with unbelievable kindness. He made everybody feel part of it. He made everybody, and he shared his success with everybody, from the trainers to the doctors to the coaches to everybody in the organization. So, we were all pulling for him. We wanted him to succeed because of it. And, when you talk about leadership, Wayne wasn't the guy that spoke a lot in the room, but, his actions and what he did and how he presented himself and how he treated the people around him were incredible life lessons. And, not rarely in life can you look up to somebody that's 8 days, younger than me. But I learned a lot from Wayne from the first day of training camp. And I recognize that there's a reason why he's the best player in the world. And if I wanted to improve, I should start trying to do some of the things and practices that he had, from a work ethic to a practice, to his games, for his competitiveness, to his focus, and most importantly, the way he treated people around him, and not only the players from around the team, but the fans alike. I mean, don't forget, back then we were traveling commercial. We would have long layovers in airports.
Oh my God!
And of course, everybody recognized Wayne, and everybody wanted a picture for him. I mean, it was incredible. So God bless him for the patience that he showed from fans and media and everyone alike, and is one of the reasons why he's so highly respected.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as he's got a house here in St. Louis. We see him. He comes down to the studio, whatever, and he is like so down to earth and such a nice human being. It's incredible. But okay, so how much did you know about him before you first saw him on the ice? Like, were you like, okay, I hear this guy's amazing. We'll see if he's truly that good. And what made him so great? Like, outside of his brain and how he anticipated it and everything, was he just that much better than everybody else? Because it's hard to truly understand how somebody can be that good in comparison to the rest of the players.
Well, the first time I heard about Wayne, I grew up on the west coast of Canada. So the first time I heard about Wayne, he got written up as a 10-year-old or 9-year-old in the Canadian magazine. So it'd be like Time magazine or something like that for Canada. It was Canadian magazine. It was a well sought after publication, and they did a next big expose on Wayne, this 9-year-old phenom who scored 370 goals and 400 and some assists in 1 year, and just nobody could believe it, and a can't miss prospect. And so that's when Wayne got on my radar, obviously. And then, of course, through junior hockey and then turning pro at the same time. So I knew of Wayne. I'd never met him to our first training camp in Edmonton. And, we got on right away as friends, fast friends, going through the same things, obviously, and whatnot. When you say what made Wayne so much better than everybody else, it's hard to quantify it in just sheer talent. But I think if you started there, an incredible gifted athlete, no question. Lacrosse, a great baseball player, everything he did, he was good at it, super competitive. From a hockey standpoint, I don't think people ever recognized how good a skater he was, because when he came into the league there, he had a unique style there. He was really bent over at the waist, and his stick, had an incredibly low lie as compared to most players, most players stand up and skate with their back up and in a crouch position. Wayne was really bent over at the waist, and so that was different. Nobody thought that was going to be effective at the National Hockey League level. But his skating, his edging, his turning it was more on par with what you kind of see these guys doing now. His change of direction, his anticipation. He might not have been the fastest guy. Everybody says he's not the fastest guy I ever played. Well, we would do races in practice, 3, 4, 5 lap races for conditioning, and he would beat Paul Coffey and everybody out there. Glenn Anderson, no problem. I never saw him lose a race to a puck because of his anticipation. he knew where the puck was going, and he was already headed there and didn't change of direction there. So he never lost a race to a puck. And just the ability to process the game, like we talked about it early in the interview about Kucherov and how he's processing the game so much quicker than most, and then have the talent to be able to execute, a 50-foot saucer pass through the seams on power plays over to Stamkos. Well, Wayne, how many guys tried to do what Wayne did by standing behind the net, and how easy a target they became when they tried it. The defenseman would just go in behind there and take the puck off him, but nobody could get the puck off Wayne when he was back there, and they tried to come from both sides, and they still couldn't get it, and he could find the open man. So there's just so many things that I saw and witnessed over those years of what made him special, and none more than his work ethic and his competitiveness. He wanted to win. He wanted to be a special player. He wanted to go down as the best player ever play the game. He was on a mission to do that. He was in the right position at the right time with the right people and coach and players around him to help him do that. And then his competitiveness, just wanted to win so bad. And all that rubbed off on the team below. You know what I mean? It was an incredible experience. I got to witness genius every day for 10, 11, 12 years.
All right, Tom Ghilardi, the owner of the Dallas Stars, man. We got billionaires
we do
on this edition of the Cam and Strick podcast. Again, get your hats at camandstrick.com. Hey, what's your outlook for the Dallas Stars now moving forward? You guys have had a lot of coaches, though. I will say that, Tom. You've had a lot of coaches there recently. Some your choice, some, obviously some different circumstances that led to coaches moving on and stuff like that. But you got Pete DeBoer coming in.
Oh, Petey.
Cam's old coach with the Devils back in the day. Like, what's your outlook moving forward here into this year and trying to get this team, back to where they were just a few years ago? As people forget, you guys were in the Stanley Cup final in that bubble back in 2020.
Yeah, I think that it was, we had a decision to make with Rick, and I think there was just a bunch of metrics with our team that we didn't like, and I think Rick did a wonderful job of getting that club into the playoffs with we had some sketchy goaltending throughout the season, and so our defensive numbers weren't where we're used to being, and I think some of that is on the goaltending, and some of that is just on, I think, the message. I think it's hard. I think it's hard for players to play more than 3-4 years for coaches in most instances. I mean, there's examples of coaches that have had success, for longer, and certainly I hope Pete has lots of success for a long time. But it's really the measure of kids today. They don't have the attention spans, and I just don't think you see coaches with 10, 12-year careers, the same team. So, other than we had the two blips with Hitchcock and with obviously Jim Montgomery, but the Montgomery thing was out of our control, and that is what it was. And Hitch, I know that the media likes to say that was my decision to hire Hitch. And it's just not true. He was a guy that I was very interested in getting, and we made the decision to bring in Hitch to change the identity of the team, and thought he was our best chance to do that. And that's exactly what Hitch did. So people might say, well, he's only 1 year. It wasn't successful. It was a mistake. It absolutely was not a mistake. We came out of the Lindy Ruff years. We were 31st in team defense. Hitch brought us into number 6, and Monty stepped into that position and benefited from all the work that Hitch put into the club to change our identity. And, we just believe that if we're going to have any success in the playoffs, we have to be able to defend, and we have to be a top 5 defensive team. And that's exactly what we became. And we've been that every year until this past year, where, as I mentioned, some of our metrics went the wrong way. But the metrics that we really just couldn't live with was our offense and the types of, the way we were playing and the way, we were 32nd in expected goals for. So there's just some really bad metrics that we just didn't think were going to change without making a change. And so, I think Rick too, it was a mutual thing. Rick's just an unbelievable guy. And Rick felt that he had got everything out of the team that he could and really believed that the team would benefit from another voice. And so, that was a decision to make the change. And, we looked at who was out there and we had a long list of guys, and we quickly, landed on Pete being the right guy. And, I know I got a chance to meet Pete before the decision was made to offer him the job, and it was really as good a coach interview as I've ever had. And I was really impressed with him. And yeah, he's a neat dude. And so I'm hopeful that he can help us, regain some offensive punch here without losing the identity that we worked so hard to get. So I'm hopeful, but having said that, we need some guys to have better offensive years. We've had too many players have really poor offensive output. So again, another reason for the coaching change to hopefully spark something. And, we need our two big guys who are to have better seasons offensively. And so I think they will.
All right. You mentioned Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. Man, it's interesting because you think about like the great duos in the NHL, the names, right? The iconic names, the Taves and Kanes, the Crosbys and Malkins. People mention like, Benn and Seguin and Dallas. They've been there for so long, but they're making so much money, man. I mean, combined, I think over $20 million and combined less than 100 points last season from two of your top players, man. I know they're getting older and whatever, but how do you look at it? Because one thing you can't do when you're an owner or a coach, Tom, you can never predict when that offense is going to fall off. Yeah. You just have no idea when it's going to happen. So, can they get it back is the question. Like, can they rediscover that offense that they showed earlier in their career that got them the contracts that they're playing under now?
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, when you sign contracts, you have to earn that. I mean, you're taking the two guys are taking, 1/4 of the cap space of the team, and both of them aren't producing enough for that. And you know what, they're responsible guys, and they know that, and they feel it, and they should feel it. And so, I expect them to step up and get better. I mean, I think with Tyler, he's had some injuries, and the types of things he's gone through. It's taken some really good players around the league, a year or so to get over that and come back out of it. I mean, I think about a guy like Stamkos, similar injury, similar surgery, and if you remember, he came out of that. He wasn't that great a player, but then look at him now. So. I think Tyler will hopefully come out of this and be a lot stronger. And, he just wasn't 100%, hasn't been 100% for a while. And so I think physically that's hurt him. And he's got to find that different thing. If Jamie's not scoring, Jamie still does a lot for the club.
Yeah, I got you.
He's our leader. He's as much as people say, oh, well, he's not earning his contract. If you put him on the market, there'd be 24 teams that would want to acquire him for all the other stuff that he does. So, we need him to score more. On our team, we're a bit scoring challenged the last couple of years, and so we need him to score more. But we also need the other stuff that he brings, and he's been bringing that. So, competitive guy. He's our leader, and we're just going to need a bit more offense out of him. And he knows that. I think he's trained differently this summer, and needs to get a bit quicker, and which I think he'll do.
Yeah, and in fairness, I think Tyler finished the season strong, didn't he? Last year, he scored some goals down the stretch.
Yeah, he did. He did. He got better as the season went on. He got stronger, and I think recovering from what he went through. So. But I think there's going to be some systems changes with with the way we play that is going to lead to more offense. And so I think as much as people might be down on Tyler and Jamie for what they've done, I think part of that is just the way we've played and the way we're the bit of our strategy, which is what we really believe needed to change, and hence the coaching change. So I think that'll help them as well.
Okay, so how do you look at contracts in the NHL today? Because it wasn't too long ago where kind of had to establish yourself before you got paid the big time money. Now these kids coming out of entry level contracts, man, they're getting paid big time money as well. And you got a couple of young guys there, and Jason Robertson, and of course Ottinger, your goaltender. I mean, how do you look at that? Because you've rewarded the veteran guys. Do you feel comfortable handing it over to a young guy? How do you approach it?
Well, at the end of the day, we have a salary cap, and we have to operate within that. And there's two big things that have changed, I think, in the last few years. Is the absence of the second contract. And so, kid in the third year of his entry level puts up 40 goals. Now he wants to make $7 million. So, and if you want term with that player, he's going to take you higher than that. So that's a big change. And what's really happening is the Stars are taking all the money, and the guys in the middle are getting squeezed. So the differences are the veterans who don't score a lot are getting squeezed. And I don't like it. I think there's a lot of players in the league making $1 million who are better players, and then the guys who can put the puck in the net are getting too big a piece of the pie. But it's a market at the end of the day, and if that's what teams are doing, we're paying. We've gotten rid of. There's no second contracts, and the second contracts are obviously short, bridges and things. But the old days you used to sign. Like Jamie Benn comes out of entry level, he signs 6 years at $5 million. Mm-hmm. Well, those now seem to be gone, and we're right into the big deals with these kids. So, and it just takes the money away from the veterans and the other guys who've gotten squeezed. So, I don't like it, but that's the market, and that's the way it works. And it's really it's a free market, if you will.
All right, Jean-Claude. Danny Briere, man, great interview. Future GM, just got hired on by the Philadelphia Flyers. He's a senior advisor to the general manager there. That's a great title to have, by the way. Interviewed for the Montreal Canadiens GM job. Would have been a great fit there, but now, listen, he's going to get more experience, and eventually he will be a general manager in the National Hockey League. Had a great career, too, and he's great on this interview as well. So enjoy Danny Briere, Jean-Claude, on this edition of the Cam and Strick podcast presented by Hair Club, baby. Damn right. I can't imagine the adrenaline that comes with scoring an overtime playoff goal, like at home or even on the road. I mean, it's just got to be an amazing feeling. You did that a bunch. But I want to talk about that Boston series, though. You guys are down 3-0, 2010. And I covered that final in Chicago, whatever, when you guys played the Blackhawks that year. But then in Game 7, you guys are down 3-0. You come back to tie the game. You got the tying goal late in the third period, I think, with just a couple minutes left. Ties at 4-4. You guys win in overtime. That series in particular, man, that's crazy. What was it about that series that allowed you guys to kind of get back in and believe that you guys could do it?
One thing I do remember, because I've been down 0-3 a few times in my career, and you know it's over. You have that feeling. You look around. I was like, all right, let's try to save face here and win at least one game, so it's not we don't get swept. But that after that Game 3 in Philly, we were sitting in the locker room and thinking, what the heck is happening? We're the better team. We're outplaying them. We're having absolutely no breaks. We should be up 2-1 in this series. Worst case scenario, maybe down 2-1, but we should be up in this series. We're the better team. And that's the way we were just looking around. We couldn't believe what was happening. And then the breaks started happening from that point on. We started getting the breaks on our side. There's a couple injuries. I think they lost Krejci, and then we got Simon Gagne back. So that's a big swing. And then all of a sudden, instead of losing, the game 2-1, we were winning them 2-1. We were winning a game in overtime. And then we get to Game 7, and I was so fired up for that game. And we come out of the gate and we're down 3-0 about 7 or 8 minutes down. And I was seeing red. I was so angry. I was ready to kill someone. I was embarrassed, first of all, and pissed off that we had put in all that work just to come to this and lose it in the first 10 minutes of Game 7. And there's that famous timeout that Peter Laviolette took, and he kept saying, 1 goal, guys, 1 goal. And we get a lucky break. Talking about breaks, we get a lucky fluky goal from JVR where it bounced off 3 different people and it ends up behind the net. So we went back in the room after the first period, and it was dead dead quiet. There's silent in there. And the guys we were so angry, so pissed off that we had came out that way, and just nothing was working. But we're down 3-1. The one thing I didn't realize at the time was that in the series, they were up 3-0, and now it's 3-3. In that game, they were up 3-0, and then they could feel us coming. We got back on the ice in the second period, and it's like they were frozen. Nobody on their team wanted the puck. They were just throwing it away. Nobody was making plays. They weren't really attacking the net. They just wanted the game to end. And then slowly we were able to creep back in. Scotty Hartnell scored a goal to make it 3-2. And then when we tied it at 3, we went back in the locker room after the second period, and it was the opposite. It was like the party had already started. You could feel it. Guys were, chipper. They were bouncing around. We couldn't wait to get back out to the third period. We knew we had them. They were frozen. You could see that in the way they played. You could see that in their eyes and their face. They didn't want to be the team that, lost a 3-0 lead. So, it was an amazing feeling going back for the third period. And Simon Gagné, we hadn't played early in the series, coming back and scoring a big goal was again, a big break for us. So we started getting the breaks in the second half of that series.
Yeah, a few more questions for you, and we'll let you go, man.
Yeah,
You've been great.
No, this is awesome. I love it.
Hey,
too, by the way, Jean-Claude.
just to get in the playoffs, Jean-Claude. Just to get in the playoffs that year, you guys had to beat the Rangers and Henrik Lundqvist in a shootout. I think you were the first shooter to go in the shootout, and you score on Lundqvist. Like, come on, man. You know what's on the line. What were you really thinking? Like, were you able to, mentally, prepare yourself to take the shot, what you were going to do? Yeah. And how nervous were you, Jean-Claude?
So that's a great question. It's a great leading up question to what you just talked about. So and I knew I was going to go in a shootout. I didn't know what order, but I assumed I was going. So when Peter tapped me, you're going first, right away my thought was, oh shit, this is for a lot of money. The Flyers could lose a lot of money if we don't win this shootout. So it starts with me. So my brain started going in the wrong direction. I jumped on the ice. I took a few steps, and right away I was able to kind of gather myself and say, all right, you know what? Okay, change the mindset right now. You gotta focus on what you have to do. Nothing else. There's nothing else that needs to happen here. And then I started looking down the ice, and I know now that Lundqvist was in the net, but I wasn't even seeing Lundqvist. I started focusing just on the netting part and telling myself, you just got to get the puck to the netting, to the netting. And then, I was so focused on that when it was time to go that I don't even remember. I mean, I'm sure I could find a clip somewhere, but I don't even remember if the crowd was standing on their feet screaming, or if they were quiet, or if they were sitting down, or I have no idea. It was basically, there's nobody else in the rink. It was me and the netting part, and that's all I had to get down to. But that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of conditioning to do. I probably would not have been able to do that earlier in my career and to change that mindset. Because you're right. At first, when I heard, okay, you're going, oh boy, the panic started, the freezing part that we talked about earlier, it started coming on. Well, and I had to find a way to get away from that.
Craig Janney, episode number 175, baby. This is the Cam and Strick podcast. One of the greatest passers, American-born passers ever, is with us now. Enjoy this. Hey, what was it like for a young kid? You come in, you play with the Boston Bruins. First off, Boston kid playing with the Bruins. Yeah. Like when does that set in, and how do you just focus on playing as opposed to being like, wow, man, is this really happening?
I'll tell you when I focused on playing. The first day I was there at practice, I was a little in awe, a lot in awe, and it was an optional. My two coaches were John Cuniff and Terry O'Reilly was the head coach.
Oh, my God. We had Terry on.
I know Johnny Cuniff, too. That's Lou's guy.
So, he's absolutely nuts. I love him. He was probably my favorite guy. I don't know why, because he was my first guy, and he loved me, too. But we're playing it's an optional. No one's out there really, but those two, and we're playing stick and pass, two slash, you know, and you got to hit the post, two slash. And I got a couple buddies from college up watching, you know, and I get the puck and my back's kind of turned to the boards, and O'Reilly runs me, and my helmet goes flying off, and I get up, and he's already got the puck and he's going on the net. I look at my buddies in the stands going, what the fuck? What do I do? And he shakes, they all shake their heads and lift their shoulders. And I go back in there and I go, well, I got to do it. So I run up to him and he's dangling. I two-hand him over the shins. Ooh. And he chased me down, but he got it. He got it. Maybe that's why he liked me so much, you know, because I didn't just lay flat on my back and not go near him.
How tough... How is he in that market? I mean, can he go in? Because he was pretty humble when we had O'Reilly.
Terry O'Reilly? He's like shopping for like antiques with his wife. Like, what is going on?
I'm like, tell me about, like, could you walk down the street? He's like, oh, no one really talks to me much. I'm like, what? Really? God, you were a god there.
He was a god there. Everyone's afraid of him. I mean, that he's going to beat the snot out of him, you know?
The left.
Because he would. If he snapped, like he had a snap zone. Like when he snapped, forget it. He have a hard time getting it back, you know.
Really?
And that's what you never wanted him to snap.
He'd snap on the bench on his own players or on the refs?
Oh, on his own players, on the other team, the refs. Oh, I was late one day that same year, my first half year after the Olympic team. I had it was senior week at BC. I had a few too many lemonades. and I showed up late for practice, and he grabbed me and brought me in the penalty box after practice. And he goes, you know, I'm playing you with Cam Neely. You're playing on the power play. You took a couple guys' jobs, and you're embarrassing me by showing up late.
Oh.
He goes, not only am I going to send you to the minors if you do it again, but I'm going to beat the living crap out of you too.
Oh. Jesus.
You know, so.
Well, hey, Janie, don't be
psychopath.
Late. Don't be late, though.
Oh, I wasn't late again.
No. Yeah, dude.
I don't know how well you knew Brett Hull before you got here, but like just hanging out with him and being in the dressing room with him every single day.
Yeah.
Nonstop entertainment. Like, did you enjoy it? Was it too much at times, or did you just love going to work with Brett Hull, like off the ice, just dealing with, you know, his personality?
Well, he was two different people. He was around the room on the ice, Brett Hull, and then he was the off the ice in the bar, Brett Hull, you know, and he was two different guys. Sometimes, you know, you never know what you're going to get around the ice with Holly. Sometimes he'd be happy, go lucky, and then he'd pout. Sometimes he could get the pout going big time if he didn't get some cookies early, you know.
Well, he was pissed off because he wasn't playing with you, though. Like, you're playing with Shanahan and Emerson, and it's like he's like, I don't even know who his centerman was. He wanted to play with you.
He got 70 goals of Ronnie Wilson as a center, and I love Ronnie Wilson. But he wasn't no centerman, playmaking centerman, that's for sure.
I mean, could he go anywhere in this town without just getting bombarded? Did you guys have to, like, walk in through the back?
It was tough.
Like, yeah. Even without social media.
It was really tough on him that way. I mean, he couldn't go anywhere without it being an attack. But we'd have a couple safe bars, safe havens, where people left him totally alone and they wouldn't go near him, you know, which was nice.
Yeah.
Did you guys all hang out together? Like, I mean,
always. I went to lunch every day and hung out, and dinners after every game, you know.
And that's how it was.
That's how you did it, man.
You had your 106-point season here, man. I mean, you had to have some great memories here in St. Louis, man. I mean, is that the best year? Like, how do you evaluate that season looking back on it?
No, it was a great season. No, we had some great seasons there. And I'll tell you what, if they didn't pick up Keenan to run the show, we would have had some really good seasons there. The year Keenan tortured me and traded me out of town, and then he just blew up the team. We had a terrific team. It was a lockout year. It was a short year. we had a wagon ready to go, and he just blistered it. It was a shame. And if you guys wouldn't remember that team, but we had Shanahan, Emerson, Hall, McGinnis, Duchesne, Housley, Eakinen. I mean, we had a bunch of good role players too, and I mean, he just blew it up.
No,
we do remember that.
Remember that?
How young do you think we are?
What are you talking about? Of course, I remember that.
Fuck, I was at those games.
And everybody, listen, we've had so many guys who have come on. Boston guys too, like Tony Amani, who just like ripped the shit out of Mike Keenan. I mean, you almost feel bad sometimes, but then you don't, because he was like, Brett Hall called him a tyrant. But what do you mean he would just torture you? Like, what was your relationship like with Mike?
Oh, it just tortured me. He sat me out first game of the year. Your family's coming in. Oh God, you're now one of those deals, and he just kept sitting me out every other game and. One of those, and then you don't shoot enough, you pass too much, so you're sitting out, and, stuff like that. And then he sat me out like 5 in a row, and you got to do the suicide stuff, you got to do the fitness crap. And he finally came to me. Well, who was our assistant? Ted Sater was the assistant. And I go, Ted, I'm not doing this shit today. All right, I'm out of here. I'm going back to the hotel. I might be splitting town. And so I go outside, and he went and told Keenan that I was leaving. I was leaving. I was taken off from the team. I mean, I had enough. And Keenan grabs me and says, I want you to start playing for me again. And I go, no, thanks. I don't think the guys will respect me anymore if I did that. So I'll be going home. You tell me when you trade me and where I'm going. Give me a call and I'll be there. But to his fault, he kept paying me. He paid me for 2 more weeks before he traded me, which he didn't have to.
So you never played another game with the Blues again?
No.
So what'd you do for those 2 weeks?
I had a lot of lunches.
Oh boy.
You weren't skating.
Oh boy.
Nowadays they'd be skating every day.
Oh, they'd be getting killed.
And working out every day.
Did you ever just look at Keenan and be like, fuck you?
No,
fuck you.
He tortured a lot of guys, man.
I mean, God almighty.
I don't know what his thrill was in it. I mean, he was a great practice coach. I loved his practices. And on the bench, I loved how he ran the bench when he'd go with the guys who were going. And I respect that. But man, the head games, the mind games that I enjoyed more than anything were ridiculous.
Did he ever torture like a young kid too, where you guys are all just like, it's okay, dude, you're going to be okay. And he just, because I feel like some of these coaches like that, just, they pick on the weak at times and they pick on the healthy and strong, but like sometimes they torture you for no reason. But I can see some of these young kids coming in like, where am I at right now? And you guys
exactly. Oh, yeah. He would do young, old. It was like he got a thrill out of it, like it was a game.
The Cam and Strick podcast is brought to you by Bellman and Bellman.com. BEHLMANN.com. Get out there to Detroit, Missouri. Check it out. On one side, you got the Buick, the GMC. Options for everybody. Then right across the street, you got the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Again, find something that works for you and get yourself a new set of wheels in time for the winter.